Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Nordic Championship. My name is Jake Hitbury Matthews, and I'm joined by Dan Orcs Harrison. Now, I took a week off from the Nordic Championship. What happened? What went down? What did we miss coming into the last week?
So we saw Team Singularity and Vipers manage to clutch out playoffs. They are now at 8 wins apiece, which means they will be going to playoffs, although they're still fighting for seeding at the moment. Obviously, against each other, Singularity edges it out in the head-to-head. But that can change going for the forwards. We've seen some teams having big win streaks. Nordavind made a massive resurgence and managed to take down Singularity. That was a pretty big one, especially since the crushing performance from Aesthetic. We've seen Sharp join in on Hybrid and then paired up with Prisconnect. He's had a really solid performance. Nordavind on a strong upswing. Obviously, that game against Singularity was a big one. And Dusty as well on a solid win streak, getting their first 2-0 week. So a solid performance from them. And a lot of teams, as we get close to playoffs, are starting to find their form. But the thing is, we are getting close. We have 4 games left for each team. And as of now, every single team can make playoffs. But it's really
Big ask
precarious.
for some teams than maybe for others. Let's have a little look at our standings and see where we are coming into here. So Team Singularity and Vipers tied in that top spot 8 and 2. You have Dusty, who are in 3rd, Hillerod in 4th, Nordavind and Bifrost both tied. And then we have Hybrid 3 and 7. And like you said, Atlando 2 and 8 all the way at the bottom, but still technically can make it to the playoffs. But it is going to be a really grueling trip for them to do so.
Yeah, the basic takeaway you can take from the standings is that if you make 8 wins, you can get playoffs off your own merit. The thing is, for Hybrid and Atlando, the reason it's difficult is not even if you win all 4 of your remaining games. So Atlando would be at 6 points, Hybrid would be at 7 in the alternate situations where they get 4 wins. That isn't necessarily enough to guarantee playoffs. So you're relying on other matchups. So that's why it gets a little bit precarious, because Nordavind, Bifrost, if they smash their games, they can just say, right, we're making playoffs. But for those two at the bottom, you're kind of relying on other teams going this way or that way, which does make it a little bit difficult. But we can have a look at our schedule for today and look at the games. And I think the big one is for Atlando in particular, this game 1. If they lose this, they're out of playoffs.
Yeah, it's all to play for in our first game of the day, Atlando versus Nordavind. And we have ourselves Dusty taking on Bifrost, our 3rd game of the day. Hillerod versus Team Singularity. We're rounding the day out with Hybrid versus Vipers.
Yes, I feel like based on their recent form, a lot of these games, I think there's a distinct favoured side in all of them. But with it being so close to playoffs, with the entire environment of the Nordics being so many upsets consistently, so many swings in form, I feel like it could go either way in a lot of these. And there's a lot to be earned, especially for the teams in the middle of the pack. You get a win, especially against a stronger team who you wouldn't typically expect to do so. And it can give you that edge because we have so many teams in such close standing. I think particularly it's Nordavind and Bifrost at 4, just below that cutoff for playoffs. But then it's a point to Hillerod and then another point to Dusty, so they could definitely make that ground.
Like we've said quite a few times now here in the Nordic Championship, any team's really capable of beating any team. And that's what makes it so exciting. And you know, we're so close to playoffs and we've still not got playoffs decided yet on who's going to be playing where. Who's actually in yet. So I'm excited to see how these next few kind of weeks are going to go, the last 2 weeks of the season. But Atlando, it starts here in this game if they want any hope of making it to the playoffs. Otherwise, they'll just be looking to play upset. And they'll be going up versus Nordavind. Now, Nordavind are in 5th at the moment. So, you know, they're not one of those kind of top teams. They are kind of in that middle pack area. So it's a more reasonable ask here for Atlando, but it's still not going to be easy.
I think based on Nordavind's current form, this is an extremely hard matchup. I think Nordavind, we've seen them looking rough for such a long part in this split, but their game against Singularity was decisive and it showed their new form coming into this. They're on a small win streak. I think the big change has been Aesthetic moving over to champions that are more relevant in the later stages of the game. So even though he'll often have a good early game on things like Elise, it would get to the point where he's no longer really impacting the match. And on top of that, Naita has transitioned away from things like the Pantheon, where you sort of have to crush lane. He looked great on the rise. And then we've seen the bot lane of Chrisberg and Advian playing more aggressive matchups, particularly the Lucian for Chrisberg, and then, you know, the Thresh and the Blitzcrank for Advian. And it kind of means that the team's been playing in a different way. They're not relying on their mid-jungle crushing, because now that they don't need to, they can play the game a little bit slower, not take some bad skirmishes. But bot lane's been absolutely popping off, and you can see Atlando instantly banning away the Lucian, and that is specifically from Chrisberg.
Yeah, well, we are in to picks and bans now. The Ornn is going to get taken away here from Nordavind as well. 10.4 still, changing on to 10.5 next week, I believe. Is it next week?
Yep,
next week. Be on 10.5, so maybe seeing some of that Janna top lane we have been seeing pop up in the LCS and the LEC. We'll have to see. Syndra going to get banned away.
Yeah, I was just thinking about it.
You okay?
I'm just thinking about which patch it is.
We are 10.4, don't worry.
We are definitely 10.9, yeah.
Definitely 10.4.
And I'm pretty sure the second week, yeah. Okay, yeah.
This is week 2 of 10.4.
I was just thinking back to it. Yeah, so we've seen
last time I was here, it was not Janna, sorry, it was Soroka, Sona.
It's fine.
Now we switched to Janna.
It's cool. Right, so bans coming in. We see the Lucian Thresh, you're targeting the bot lane of Chrisberg Advian. The Syndra, just a common power pick, banned away from Niter. And inside Nordavind, they're taking away the Ornn, the Draven, a little bit more specific to Thor. And we'll see what they come out here. It's going to be the Jarvan. So something that Jolbu has had quite a bit of success on. We've seen him play the Lee Sin, and it's been hit or miss. But when it has performed well, he's had some great moments, just not consistently across the game. And we see the Senna come out, likely going to be the fasting Senna that we've seen pop up quite a bit. And the big question I always want to ask is what it's going to be paired up with. That normally interests me. The answer for Nordavind instantly with the Aphelios Gragas. So a strong jungler that can counteract the Lee Sin if Jolbu ends up taking that. And also it provides a lot of versatility. You can provide that engage factor or disengage for the Aphelios.
We'll see what they want to pair up there in the bot lane, though, is typically with this center, you do see that Tahm Kench get picked up, but the Echo is going to get picked up here. Could go for Jolbu, could go for Jacob. Flexible pick there. Cho'Gath will be the lock-in here for Atlanta as well. Looking towards most likely their top lane, but again, you can also throw the Cho'Gath into the mid if you really want to.
You can triple flex it. You can throw a bot lane as well with the center. I think the big thing is initially we saw the Tahm Kench offering an element of safety towards that center. But since then, I've seen Karma, I've seen Morgana, I've seen Rumble. You can essentially put anything that sort of appreciates the farm, and then there's like a scale. There's like the more supportive side, like the Tahm Kench, and then you have like your Morgana Karma. And then on the other side is like the Rumble, which, I mean, is played as a supporting career, but it's very much more I am a carry as well.
Yeah.
And it varies on what the lane matchup is. So it's going to be playing up into a Blitzcrank. So again, a bit of aggression coming out from Advian, a playmaker for him. So it'll be interesting to see what the bans are going to be in this situation. I think Tahm Kench could potentially be something you take off the cards. But if you do run that Tahm and you get hooked, when you've eaten someone, it's just going to put you in a really rough situation. You can eat them out of the rocket grab animation, so there's a possibility for that. We're seeing the bans come in. Cassiopeia banned away by Nordavind and Yasuo by Atlando. I understand the Yasuo ban. Obviously, pairing that up with the Gragas can be a massive issue. Cassiopeia functions well as a backline DPS threat, because I feel like Atlando so far lacking that sustained damage if Nordavind do take someone a bit bulkier like the Set. But ultimately sort of targeting the mid lane, both of these teams, until now, where the Gangplank ban comes in away from Andreas.
Okay, one more ban here for Orlando. Where are they looking to ban out? They take away the Set. We've seen the Set being played pretty much consistently all season, so it makes sense as a ban. Good blind pick. Good counter pick as well into some matchups. As now looking towards what Nordavind are going to look to pick up here. We expect them to go for a top laner and try and counter pick the mid lane, but actually, that's the Lee Sin from Jolbu, so this Gragas is going middle top.
Yeah, could well be flexing the Gragas, so we'll have to see where that one ends up going. A little bit of an interesting one. Overall, haven't seen too much of this, but obviously Gragas top was a thing back in the day for quite a while. It was a long time. It feels weird to me taking it as a blind, but we'll have to see what ends up coming out in this situation. Jacob taking the Zoe would be a lot of comfort for him, so not too many surprises, and it's a strong blind on the current patch. Sort of up there with LeBlanc. A little less safety, but still a good one. Now we're going to see, is Andreas going to be on the Cho'Gath, or is this going to be thrown down the bot lane? Is the big question.
Running that clock down. Atlando going to pick up the Pantheon here.
Still have no idea.
Question's not answered, really.
I have no idea.
Pantheon Senna's pretty nasty. Cho'Gath Senna's also pretty nasty.
Yeah, they could go in either
They
sort
could
of
even put the
situation.
Echo down there and put the Pantheon in the jungle if they really wanted as well.
Yeah.
There's actually quite a lot of flexibility to Atlando here. The question is are they too flexible? Nordavind also going for a few flex picks himself with this Gragas Lee Sin lock-in, and now looking at the LeBlanc for the mid lane, meaning that is going to be the Gragas in the top side.
So LeBlanc, pretty solid blind, fine into the Zoe in terms of that matchup. Does mean that we are moving back to Nordavind going for that aggressive mid jungle and the scaling onto Crispberg. So a little bit of a different change from what we've typically seen, although against Atlando, I think they're feeling more confident than potentially against other teams. It does mean that if Nita Aesthetic miss their windows, though, they are going to struggle. And for Atlando, it looks like we have things locked up. So they have till 20 seconds. It's definitely, I feel like it's going to be the fasting Senna and then the Echo jungle, the Zoe mid. It looks like they're keeping the Pantheon top. So something that up against the Gragas in the early levels can definitely challenge him, but later on, going to struggle to. And the Cho'Gath in the bot lane. So a lot of kill pressure when you hit 6 and quite a bit of sustain between those two, but doesn't offer as much safety to the Senna as a Tahm Kench would.
And also, crucially, early Cho'Gath can be a little bit squishier. He can be kind of easier to pin. If a hook lands onto him, you have, you know, the Aphelios, and if you can get some jungle intervention from a Lee Sin, a lot of early power available there to be able to shut that Cho'Gath down. And if he starts to fall further and further behind, it gets really hard for the Cho'Gath to kind of make himself relevant. But like you said, there is sustain in that lane. He's obviously got a Senna. There's double Glacial Augment lane as well there, so a lot of kind of crowd control and slowing effects available to them. But I do worry that if early attention comes out from Nordavind bot side, Fort and Fred could have a really rough game. But if they're kind of left to their own and like just left to farm, like you said, level 6 is pretty strong for them. A lot of kill pressure available.
Yeah, and I feel like with any Blitzcrank, it's sort of, when you're ahead, it feels really oppressive. When you're behind, it feels pretty useless unless you can get that god grab that pulls you back in the game. I feel like for Nordavind, you're looking at the mid jungle. They want to find priority, pair up with Advian, and sort of control the bot side of the map. Potentially, though, they can look... Actually, I say that. I don't think you can really threaten the Pantheon too much. He is a very hard champion to sort of punish and dive, unless he's overextended. For the side of Atlando, I think bot lane, if they can survive, it's going to put you in a good spot. You could potentially challenge this mid jungle. Echo is just so good at counter ganking, I think is the critical thing. Because if you end up committing to a fight, use your mobility, and then you end up getting caught in the parallel convergence, you will get stunned for such a long time. But the big takeaway that I want to look at is level 1, because we have a Blitzcrank, and that always makes things interesting.
We'll have to keep our eyes on what Nordavind do at level 1 as we take to the Rift for our first game of the day here. Week 7? Week 7?
We're week 6.
We're week 6.
You can't count.
Oh, yeah, there's 8 weeks, isn't there?
No, there's 7.
8 weeks including playoffs.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the emails I was sent at the beginning of the season. Man, time has flown by.
I love how we're this late and there's still so much on the line, because often at this point, you see things decided pretty heavily.
It's normally kind of a battle for kind of seeding in the playoffs, and then a little bit of upset.
You look at the LEC, and there's some teams that just are flat ruled out at this point, like by a large margin. But here, we still have Atlando potentially able to make playoffs if they make the miracle run. It's like the 1 in 14 billion futures that we saw from Doctor Strange. It's like really, really low chance of it happening, but it's possible, and that sort of keeps your options open. I know that Atlando, even if they do miss out on playoffs, will still try and just sort of make a dent in the other teams, play upset, have some good performances for themselves. But the game started off, we haven't seen an invade from the Blitzcrank, nothing too crazy coming out level 1. And for me, I want to see Nordavind sort of setting the pace in this early game. I do feel like the scaling favors Atlando, although I don't think it's massively clear-cut because Aphelios always puts a spanner in the works. If he can get to the later stages, he will be monstrously strong, but that's kind of your one sort of late-game win condition for Nordavind, is this Aphelios. Everything else feels a little bit rough in the later stages of the game. We are seeing a phase rush Gragas, so it seems likely he'll head towards some more AP-focused build, which is what we see from jungle Gragas. But last time we saw top lane Gragas, it was the more tanky build.
Yeah.
There was a time in the past where you went full AP. I remember
a while back,
LMQ, I believe, in NA, who were running Lichbane, sort of Rabadons, you can just one-hit someone with your combo. which there's potential of that happening here. And it's going to be a big threat to the likes of Fred, because I think a big factor here is you don't have that same level of protection you typically do if you have the Tom Ken. So bot lane, you see the level 1 shove come in from the Cho'Gath in the center, which is pretty expected. Blitzcrank, not too threatening level 1, and the shoving power of the Cho'Gath is pretty huge, but now they're actually setting up for a play here.
Yeah, smelling something amiss here as the hook goes a little bit wide from Avian. Thor and Fred able to dodge away on that. Aesthetic not going to get his opening into the lane, but that's what I was kind of hitting on. They can find those, can make it work. Good chains actually will stop Jacob from being able to get too much done there. It's a pretty equal trade in the mid lane.
Pretty equal trade. We do see Jolbu just clearing up his blue on the top side. Now, Aesthetic's already started to establish pressure on the bot side of the map, and Wazor, I feel like he's struggling a bit, which is expected in this matchup early. Pantheon does win out over a lot of champions. And there is potential to set this up for a dive, but there's a lot of wave clear available to the Gragas to try and push it out from turret. He has used his body slam now, though, so he's a little bit vulnerable.
Yeah, looking for the stun. Wazor actually flashes. I just said he had the belly bot, but he didn't want to risk it. Oh, he just used it. Yeah, he had. Yeah.
A little bit of a... maybe a too safe, in my opinion. I feel like you could have waited for Jolbu to go over the wall, then flash. But ultimately, he wants to play it safe. He didn't want to get stunned by Andreas with the shield vault, so didn't want the CC to be layered. And flash instantly from Fred after being caught out there.
Yeah, I think a little bit of damage. Chrisberg actually does get traded back onto.
Now, a critical thing to take into account, the all-in pressure from this Cho'Gath center is pretty weak pre-6. Not just because you don't have the ultimate from the Cho'Gath, but if you take note, they actually don't have an ignite. They have a heal, and then on the other side, you have heal ignite for Nordavind. So big factor with ignite is that Grievous Wounds is going to cut down the effectiveness of heal, whereas Chris Biggs will be unchallenged. So I feel like that kind of reduces the chance of them turning things around, and it's pretty big that Fred has already lost his flash in this situation.
Nice Fedic. Popped in for a little cheeky sniff around Jolbu's jungle, but Jolbu's able to pick up these camps. Doesn't know where he is. Aesthetic down in levels currently, down in camps quite heavily to Jolbu, who has had a successful gank by just throwing his W over a wall.
And this is something that sometimes can be concerning with Aesthetic. When he tunnels a little bit too hard on ganks, it can work great, but he kind of, I feel like when he's playing a champion like Lee Sin, he knows that the game's on a timer for him making an impact. And as a result, sometimes he prioritizes looking too much towards assisting the lanes rather than keeping up his farm, keeping things efficient. He should be able to close his gap to a degree, but Jolbu is pulling ahead. But one thing to take note of, if you look across the river, there's pretty good vision control on the bot side of the map in favor of Nordavind. And that sets him up to potentially look for more of these plays. Like right now, flashes Fred. Aesthetic wants to come in.
Yeah, Vin's jumping in forward. Does get himself the knock up onto Fred. Chrisberg slowed down though by the rupture. Aesthetic does land himself a kick onto 4. Once again, the gank in the bot lane is just kited out. It's thwarted here by Atlando, and Chrisberg takes 2 ruptures, and he's just unable to close any kind of distance for his team.
The big factor was Jolbu coming in here. It kind of, engage.
It's actually doing some serious damage to Jolbu. Now, Jolbu is going to be able to get his shield, but a 2-man rupture into the feral screen. Chrisberg has the flash. He's already been rooted. He's low. The bubble with Jacob is too wide, but that's going to be a kill for Fred. Turned back around for Aesthetic. And Nordavind lose first blood.
Chrisberg just getting hit by every single rupture here on Aphelios. I feel like maybe he's too used to playing that Lucian with the dash available to him and just disrespecting the opponents. Fred does overcommit for the kill though and ends up going down. But the big difference here is that the one collecting farm is Chrisberg, whereas on the other side, it's the Cho'Gath. I've actually seen an engage come in here. Niter.
Yeah, Niter's looking to come forward, misses out on the chains, does throw out the sigil. Looking for a little bit more damage, but doesn't go for anything else. And Andreas, he's going to be able to get away.
Yeah, nice flash to get away. Ultimately, Wazor was taking a losing fight, so you have to suspect something is up when the enemy mid is missing. But yeah, as I was saying, the big thing that favors in the bot lane is the fact that Thor is the one who takes the farm. So he didn't die, he was Fred who died, so he's still able to pick up that farm. And actually, he's managed to mostly equalize the CS because there was a point where Chrisberg was pulling ahead, as you might expect from being a melee champion farming against a ranged champion, especially when Blitzcrank makes things difficult. Now, we are seeing an AP Cho'Gath come out, so I suspected this could be a possibility when he went Glacial Augment, although you can still go quite a tanky build with that. He could still sort of go a hybrid build later on, but for now, he's looking towards GLP as a first item. It'll give him more mana, it gives him good wave clear, and it sets him up to potentially look for picks onto the enemy team, which I think is going to be a big factor with this Atlando composition. They have a lot of pick potential on the back of the Zoe, on the back of the Cho'Gath, having those slows, and then you can have Jolbu and Andreas fly in and Fred ult on top. So if Chrisberg does get caught out of position, he will be punished in this situation.
Svedek wants to see if he can come down again. There are a lot of wards placed there to get themselves the root off of the Graviton. Feral Scream's already been used. The kick comes down, and Aesthetic finds himself another kill. 2 successful ganks now for him in the bot side. It's a bit better.
They're just really easy to find the Cho'Gath. This is why, I mean, I don't think being a tank Cho'Gath there would have made any difference, but when you're an AP Cho'Gath and you have to walk up the farm in this situation before you have the wave clear available, very easy for a Blitzcrank to set up the plays on you. So now, Aesthetic's going to take that dragon, and the answer from Atlando will be the Rift Herald on the top side. Now, Clouddrake, not exactly going to be the most impactful. Bit of cooldown reduction on the ults is nice, but ultimately a long way away from that Dragon Soul. But Chrisberg, I mean, that's just Helios in a nutshell.
Yeah, takes himself 2 plates free. It's going to take a fair amount of damage from Fred, but he's not going to reset anyway, so he's not particularly unhappy with that. Now, Jolbu running around with the Rift Herald. Maybe he looks to try and flop it down to the top side, get Andreas going on this Pantheon, knowing that it looks like it's going to be this AP Gragas, although he has built himself Kindle Gem and a Cloth Armor, so maybe not. Andreas misses out on the hook. Not Andreas, Advian.
I mean, Andreas didn't hit a hook either, so...
No. Come on, Andreas.
Aesthetic's hovering the wings here, and they have to play so respectful. This is a really rough lane position to be in. With the Frozen for the tower, Advian's going to look again. He has Flash.
He has Flash. He's going to land that hook. That's the kick. That's the damage. The combo comes down, and Aesthetic gets himself his 3rd kill. Killing spree for the Lee Sin.
Yeah, really rough when one person flashes and the other doesn't, because inevitably, from that angle, with how close they were, someone was getting hit. And Fred loses his Flash. Thor dies anyway. It's a rough situation to be in. And I feel like it's really nice that we're seeing Aesthetic put a lot of attention towards the bot lane, because I feel like in isolation, it's very hard to punish this bot lane at 2v2. Cho'Gath has so much sustain when he takes farm. Fred obviously has the healing as well. I feel like if Advian isn't able to play aggressive on this Blitzcrank, they would really struggle in this lane matchup. But he's been given the opportunity to. He has his mobility boots, so he's able to go mid now. You can see him and Aesthetic running towards there from base. This potentially sets them up to make some aggressive plays, maybe onto the Zoe, being a summoner there, or potentially contest the jungle of Jolbu.
Now the Rift Herald has been summoned up in the bot lane, so they're looking to try and get Thor and Fred going as that reset, the kind of move around the map by Nordavind is read well. A couple of plates are going to get picked up here. Chrisberg should make his way over to clear this out in time, and Nita and Advian are actually collapsing in. They got teleports to work with. The Rupture's going to get used. Wazel flashes away from it, and now the damage is landing onto Fred. He gets picked up by Chrisberg before he can even throw the ultimate out. Advian lands a hook, and that's another kill. It's a 1 for 2 in favor of Nordavind. And Svedek has found himself something onto Jacob here, though. So he's going to flash away from the kick. That could have been his doom.
Just a bit of an overstay from Fred for those plates. Really went way too far. Stepping forward, Jolbu.
Oh, Jolbu needs to be very careful. Looking for the parallel convergence. The bubble goes wide. A kick comes out by Aesthetic. Advian in the wings with that hook. Waiting for his opening as Chrisberg's just going to farm up some more plates.
That's really nice there from Nita to distortion back before the shield vault connected. Didn't actually end up getting stunned. And yeah, they get away with that. They play aggressive in the bot side. They get 2 plates from the Herald. They get punished massively from Nordavind. Thor and Fred both going down there. And I feel like Fred just overstayed massively. And this is the difference between having the Tahm Kench, having someone super bulky who can absorb the damage from the enemy team and also provide safety to you. In this situation, we have 2 champions in the bot lane who are very vulnerable, and Nordavind are exploiting that.
That's always was going towards that proto belt build here. It's down in CS fairly significantly to Andreas, but should equalize it somewhat on this wave.
So this sort of brings me back to when Gragas support was played a lot with Yasuo, and you would rush CDR. as the main thing. So with the old support item used to give CDR, you'd go the Frostfang build because it was the cheapest way to get that 10%. And then you'd get a Kindle Gem, you'd get a Glacial Shroud, and you're just trying to get that Body Slime cooldown as low as possible, because when you max it, it has a flat reduction of 3 seconds when you hit an enemy, so you can chain it quite a bit. And this is, to me, what Weasel's doing. He has the Fiendish Codex and the Kindle Gem, and he's looking to maximize CDR early and get more effectiveness out of the base damages of his spells.
Well, for the moment, the game has taken a little bit of a breather. Junglers are just clearing out their camps, both on their red side. Naito looks to try and lean down towards bot side there. He knows this is where the strength is for his team. These wards are going to slowly get cleared out. Fred's moving up as well to make sure no shenanigans are going to break out. Chrisberg, he's fine. He's just farming up a storm. Look at the CS lead he's got, as Jolbu actually is going to have to ult away. Was a little worried, but he'd get himself killed, chained, CC'd. Now he's being kicked. Aesthetic can just look for him here. He does have the ability to just get that kick off. Dragon's Rage will be enough as the bubble's going to connect, and Jacob takes him out.
Yeah, it's an overstep from Aesthetic. They thought with Jolbu's ult down, it'd be enough. He was trying to set up the damage for the kick, but the ult from the Senna comes in to give him the shield, and then the great Sleepy Trouble Bubble from Jacob. And he's looking formidable in this champion. It is a comfort for him. And that big shutdown going into his pocket has actually pushed them ahead in terms of gold.
Oh, good hook onto Jolbu. He doesn't have his ultimate available, but 4 is zoning away. They get themselves the knockout. They get themselves the slows. Chrisberg flashes forward, and he is taken down as Naita, he's being jumped onto. Advian is going to fall for a double kill. Naita will lose his clone, but is able to hold his life. And Nordavind just playing complete disrespect towards their opponents. Well, not 1 versus 5, but 3 versus 5. Massive outnumber.
Yeah, and it's just a great turnaround from Atlando. They managed to find the pick on a Chrisberg. He feels really vulnerable on the Aphelios right now. It's going to be threatened a bit, but we'll just walk away. And a lot of minions missed on the top side, crashed into the tower, but ultimately that's a cost. But they got the Dragon, they got the Infernal, they got a couple of kills. You now see the GLP finish for the Cho'Gath, so even more pick potential, making Chrisberg's life difficult when he's already flashless. It does make things a little bit concerning, this situation, because the pick potential for Atlando is so big. If they start to get momentum in this game, I'm going to be really worried. And this was sort of a return to the original Nordavind we saw in this split, where Chrisberg's on an immobile carry, potentially vulnerable. We see Naita and Aesthetic on champions that need a spike in the early mid game.
Can he land the hook?
No. In the early mid game, and we're seeing that again. So Chrisberg's been challenged already on this Aphelios, been caught out a couple of times. Aesthetic, yes, he had a great early game, but he's playing Lee Sin. At some point in this game, he's going to sort of be less relevant. And Nitro as well, he's done fine in lane, but just fine on a LeBlanc. Into Zoe, that's fair enough. But obviously, there may come a point where he is just unable to challenge the enemy team when they have things like the silence available to Thor as a defensive tool. Ooh, playing with fire there.
Hooks down, the bubble does connect here. Jacob might be able to get some pretty big damage off, but able to ward hop away to safety.
And actually, we see Thor laning in the bot lane. He does have TP. So I think that's a big difference, but he's laning up against Weasel with a massive level discrepancy.
Ooh. Jacob actually misses out on the bubble. This could be dangerous for him. He has to cleanse away from the chains. So he does get himself that Spell Thief proc off. And Jacob now chunked on his last tick of his Corrupting Potion as Jolbu started up the Rift Herald.
Feels a little...
know this is going on. Weasel doesn't have his teleport available yet, but 4 does, and they do have that feast. It's pretty hard to contest here as Aesthetic. He's going to get himself chunked out. This may just be the end of the Rift Herald. Naita tries to jump forward. Not going to find it, and Jolbu gets himself the 2nd Rift Herald for his team.
Yeah, so not confident to move forwards with Aesthetics so low. Not willing to fight without Chrisberg having his flash. And also, I feel like Thor being on the bottom side of the map isn't as big of a concern as Weasel, because the Pantheon is so leveled right now. At level 11, he does so much more than a level 9 in Cho'Gath would, so... Atlando are feeling confident. They get the Herald. Dragon's up in 2.5 minutes, but we're going to be looking to see where they place down that Herald or whether they'll wait to use it to set up pressure for the Dragon. Because right now, neither team has good vision over the Dragon area. Obviously, because they were investing it all on the top side around this Herald. But you can see that Atlando are moving in, pushing forwards, trying to establish it. And things are actually really dangerous when Atlando have vision control because there's a threat of so much burst potential out of the Fog of War from the Zoe, walking into a parallel convergence of the Echo, or even the Cho'Gath has a lot of tools for that. And it looks like it's going to place the Herald down the bot lane. So this will just kill the tower here. No plates available.
It's going to be first Tower of Blood nice and easy here as Nita, he gets himself caught out, has to jump away with the Mimic to make sure he doesn't get caught up by the CC available. And that's just first Tower of Blood given over to Atlando. And considering they had a pretty rough start in the bot side, they're doing good in the mid game to be able to pull this back.
Yeah, I mean, they've been doing solid. I really think they've started to take control, and it gets a little bit concerning for Nordavind because, I mean, I'm struggling to see where they'll find their way back into this game because in the later stages, Jolbu scales really well in the Echo. He's a massive threat to Chris. I mean, everything just feels like a threat to Crispig, if I'm being completely honest. It just feels like he's the one who's going to have to be looking out. Now, I will say that the AP Cho'Gath, although it does a lot of damage, is going to be potential to be blown up, especially by the likes of Waze or Nita. But I feel like there's so many threats in this Atlando lineup.
Fedix looking for it. He has got himself the Insect. Flashes up.
That's the power of the AP. Just ruptures, one hits the casters, and he can sort of back away and play it safe. And it allows Andreas to move about the map, potentially match Nitro in the side lane, and he has that ult to join if needs be.
Yeah, Nitro's opted in for the Ignite here as 4. Dodges away, more than Wazor just missing the body slam into the minions.
Good flash. So Wazor used the Proto Belt to get around the minions, then goes for the body slam, sets it up so it's very slow, very telegraphed, but very hard for Thor to dodge if he doesn't flash. So they forced a summoner, they got what they wanted, and now they can apply more pressure in this situation, potentially threaten this tower. So I think he's going to back away and take the scuttle, but ultimately Thor doesn't feel comfortable to stay and will reset. But this does mean Atlando going to be able to take this dragon on the other side of the map. So Ocean Soul, I feel like with tankier members on the roster, this is definitely a massive factor, but this dragon can be useful for sort of anyone, especially the mana costs. But it's only 2 dragons now, and that one's going to be secured by Atlando.
Fedix now just counter jungling away. It's the second red buff they deny here.
Blue buff.
Blue buff, sorry.
700 gold now, the difference between teams. Actually going up to about almost 800. So Nordavind getting that tower, obviously worth more gold just at base. But obviously the trade-off is that dragon. And it makes it a little bit difficult when you are a team who potentially doesn't want to go in the late stage.
Oh, good hook there. The flash has already been used. Gets himself the silence off. The Moonlight Vigil and the Ignite is ticking. Jacob burning low. Fred gets the heal off and he's able to live.
Yeah, Fred's saving him there, but ultimately a lot of summoners burn in that situation for very little from Nordavind. So pretty favorable engage, and that's the concern you always have to have against the Blitzcrank. There's no one on the side of Atlando who really wants to take those hooks because even Jolbu or Andreas, who sort of have an element of protection in their kits, are still potentially going to take a ton of damage. Andreas is squishy right now with this build, the Ghostblade and Hex Drinker. And Jolbu as well, if you get CC locked, you will die before you can pop your ultimate. So it makes Advian extremely threatening if he's able to find these positions, find the Fog of War. And being that it is an Ocean Soul map, there's more brushes to hide in, more sort of terrain to play around.
Looks like he's found something onto Jolbu, or has he been found by Jolbu himself? Gets himself the Power Fist for the knock-up. Aftershock keeps him tanky enough as he lands a hook this time around. The rupture's quite large though, and Jolbu, he just jumps back out of there. The railgun looks to mince through them as the pop will not come down. Wazer onto the back line now. The Grand Starfall's being used. Members are getting caught out on both sides. The Drowsy's going to get used, but the Zonya's to follow. Wazor is picked up easy as Crispberg's trying to run this back around. Aesthetic unable to find anything else here. So Bubble does connect on to Aesthetic, but they're not going to chase for anything else. And Nordavind just losing out on the fight once again.
Yeah, Adrian manages to get away, but recommits for the fight. Ends up going down for it. All of Nordavind respond there. Wazor bringing in with a TP, but ultimately, Atlando are favored in kills. Well, they did burn a lot of summoners there. Ultimately, they have numbers right now. Aesthetic and Knight's going to try and contest here. Adrian's going up against. They have to be concerned about this. The Blitzcrank's so threatening.
Adrian's looking for it. Can he find the hook? Is going to land it onto Jolbu. Gets himself the Calibrum off, and that is an easy shutdown Picked up by Advian, and now 4
goodbye,
looking for
Chrisberg.
Chrisberg. Chrisberg's answered out.
It's just a spooky ghost. There's nothing Chrisberg can do. They just pop the spooky ghost, the slows come down, the rupture hits, you're dead. That's just it. That's the playbook. It's just once again punishing Chrisberg when he's on these immobile champions. But now Thor, I mean, it was a read. You either go left, you go right. He went left, grab went right. But this is the big factor. So Advian, he needs to be consistently hitting these grabs, and he has been doing pretty well. Other than that last one we obviously saw, finds one on a Jolbu and shuts him down. And it feels like he has a pretty solid choice of targets. I feel like the only one that's sort of a little bit concerning is Andreas. Even then, Andreas doesn't want to get hooked in a tower or into like 5 members of Nordavind. Because he will go down in that situation, even though he has the Aegis Assault to give himself some time to keep him alive.
Jacob now actually running the Banshee's Veil, which means he's a little harder to pin down from the likes of Advian. Have to pop that before he can find a pick. But with the Twin Shadows, with the Hextech Hosepipe onto 4, like you said, it's Chrisberg's life has just become very hard for him.
It'll be interesting to see how he finishes out this build, because I think from here you just go tank. And he has just picked up a Kindle Gem and a Ruby Crystal, so I think he's possibly going towards the Warmogs, or there's a variety of options. But either way, I think from here you have your utility, you have your slows. You've been doing quite a bit of damage at this point, but you don't need more damage on this lineup. You just need utility.
Once again, Jolbu does have to use the Chrono Break. A lot of slows have been thrown down, followed up by the bubble. A lot of CC onto Advian. In comes the Moonlight Vigil, but it doesn't quite find its mark. And the pick comps haven't found anybody, but a bubble does land onto the back line, onto Chrisberg. Nita now looking to jump away. He's able to put some distance between him, but kick out by Aesthetic in the wrong direction means Jacob is safe. The healing will come out by Fred, and Advian once again fishing for that hook, but can't quite find anyone.
Yeah, Thor feeling a lot tankier right now with more kills in his pocket, more stacks. He's gone past that level 11 for the more HP from his ult. Feeling a lot more difficult to burst in this situation. Both teams fishing quite a bit, but Aesthetic maybe overstepping here.
Yeah, needs to be very careful. You can see Andreas on that flank.
Hiding in the brush so he hasn't been seen. And the contest here on this bot side is all about this Ocean Dragon. Nordavind don't want to give over the 3rd and put it on Soul Point, but they have vision control in this brush. Jolbu potentially looking.
Oh, the hook goes wide. Nita has to jump the wall. Andreas chasing forward. Jacob does find a bit of damage, followed up by a bubble as 4 actually might just find something onto the Hillbilly. Dodging away on a lot of this CC though.
It's just fishing. Both teams just fishing until something sticks, till something hits. A rocket grab, a rupture. Right now, Atlando feeling confident, go for the dragon.
Those spikes been thrown out by 4. Dragon still started up. Jolbu's doing his best to get on. They try to find something onto Andres. He's buying time as he flashes over the wall. The railgun gets used, and that's the dragon picked up. Wazor on that flank is going to try and separate the fight out for the moment, but Chrisberg is low. He does get shut down as Jolbu jumps back out as Fenix onto him with the Dragon's Rage, but he will be pinned down, locked down, and taken out. Atlando find themselves another one, but a good grab does come out. They got themselves the chains. Jacob still alive. Wazor is going to fall, but he actually body slams over the walls, but some distance, and it's an equal trade between the teams here. But look at the pincer. Look at the damage they'll be able to do. Advian has to find a monster hook. Wazor gets himself one. They get that knock up, trying to buy some time, so the chains are on. Wazor is out, Nita is out, Fred almost finds the damage back as Advian's being greedy. Jolbu may be looking for him.
But Jolbu's not going to be greedy himself. Ultimately kills a favor to Nordavind in that entire turn of play. It's now 10 for 10, but the dragon did go to Atlando. And with this Cho'Gath getting tankier and tankier, getting an Ocean Soul just makes them extremely hard to kill, especially when you look at Nordavind. They have a lot of burst in their composition. The only real sustained damage is coming from Chrisberg. If he gets taken out of the fight, that Cho'Gath is going to feel unstoppable. If he's able to build some more items, get that Ocean Soul behind him. But for now, Nordavind challenging to a degree in these fights, but Chrisberg still just unable to really do anything up against this Cho'Gath.
Well, he's able to take turrets at least. Just melts through that. Now got the Essence Reaver, the Zeals on. Jacob is going to get his Banshees popped, but is able to dodge out on the hooks. The Spooky Ghosts have been summoned, and now Fred and Jacob looking for Nita, but he has to distort away. Nordavind wanting to try and deny this blue buff once again. So it looks like we might just be on a bit of a battlefield here. Advian once again takes a hook, jumps away. The Spooky Ghosts get used. Moonlight Vigil goes a little bit wide by Chrisberg, so he's not going to find that graviton, but now 4, he's getting jumped onto and he's chomped out. Chrisberg takes him out. That's the power of the Aphelios. Sure, this AP Cho'Gath does a lot of damage, but he hasn't got all that much kind of resistances. He's got health, but no resistances.
Yeah, and when Wazor finds him in that situation, when he's isolated from his team, he is vulnerable. And now, they've been looking to control this area. They do have the Crescendum on Chrisberg, so they can do this Baron pretty fast. Atlando have to contest this. Thor's up in 15 with TP, but it's going to be dead by then.
Yeah, Nita is trying to play the zone control for the moment, but the team are coming on from the other side. Nita now half health, will take the bubble. That's the Baron picked up. The fight is on though, and now they're looking to try and turn this around. Advian on a killing spree as he takes out Jolbu. Jacob will be next to fall as the chains go pop. And Nordavind just chasing for more, chasing for blood. Fred does have the Banshee, so they have to pop that first. As there it goes. The slows come down. Fred, you are dead as the hook will land. Nordavind find another one. As Fetic picks himself up the kill. And Nordavind now looking to crack open this tier 2 in the mid lane.
Yeah, to push forward with the Baron buff should be pretty easy. Thor's wave clear, not good enough to really contest this. And Atlando, they were looking convincing. They were looking solid in this one, but they've been caught out. Oh,
ooh,
comes
good
in.
hook. Chain silence. Everything's layered. And Chrisberg, he's getting some revenge here for this pick. Tower will crumble here at 28 minutes. Nordavind not looking to commit too much here. They don't want to die. They don't want to give up their Baron, so they won't get the inhibitor, but they get 2 turrets. An open inhib in the mid lane, and they're going to reset and look to try and crack some more. And
the critical thing is they can now spend. They're going to have a ton of gold available from that fight. You've seen Chrisberg finish out his Runant and grab a BF sword. We were seeing these teams pretty even. It's now 6,000 gold lead, just short of it, and it's really looking rough for Atlando. They were keeping close in this game, but that skirmish, they got Thor caught out. They couldn't really challenge the vision as no one wanted to step up, potentially be threatened by Nita or Advian. And then when they finally got to the Baron, it was too late. Jolbu went down almost instantly trying to contest it, trying for the steal, and the rest of the team just followed. And now, Fred, you're gone too.
Fred, once again, finds himself hooked. Does use the stopwatch for a little bit, but Aesthetic.
Why are you there?
5, 2, and 5 on the Lee Sin. Fred's going to get picked up, and I don't even think Nordavind are really fussed about this Dragon. They just want to use this Baron as effectively as possible. Now they got the Hurricane. The wave clear is just disgusting.
And Dragon's not for 30 seconds, so the best thing you can do is play aggressive to stop the enemy team getting vision.
Jolbu takes a fair amount of damage. Chrisberg actually is bubbled, but they miss out on the Paddle Star. Advian playing a bit of interrupt on the back line as Chrisberg able to find himself a bit of a turnaround there. Nita does get picked up.
Try to kills, but critically jungler down for Nordavind. So Nita need a little bit more.
Oh, the bubble's on. Does cleanse away for the moment.
The Dragon's up, and there's no smite for Nordavind, so they have to win the fight if they want to get this one. Lando maybe a little bit greedy going this aggressive for it, but essentially they want the vision. They want the Scuttle Crab, so they have something to show them when the Dragon's been started. So Nordavind are unlikely to start this one until they either kill Jolbu or Aesthetic respawns, but Thor's going for a flank in this situation.
Yeah, Jolbu's looking to jump on the Chrisberg. Chrisberg flashes the wall and takes him down. Jacob throws a bubble out, does land it on to the support in the back line. Nita just popping some Banshees as 4 now on the flank, throws out the hose pipe, is going to miss it out for the moment. Does have himself a little bit more to work with. Look at the damage he's able to do, but Chrisberg just liquefies him. The railgun will turn it back around as now they're looking to start up this Dragon, but they're not done. Andreas is going to fall. Chrisberg gets himself a double kill. It's Jacob, it's Fred left, but Jacob has no mana, unable to contest. He might try and look for one optimistic Paddle Star. As this will be the end of the Dragon. Nordavind playing a patient game here.
Oh, Fred nearly getting caught out there, but ultimately Nordavind, they buy enough time for Aesthetic to respawn. They kill Jolbu, they kill Andreas and Thor. There was no chance of a contest there. Realistically, Atlando were potentially just looking for a steal, but they get the Dragon. They deny the soul for another 4 minutes. Although the Baron has passed out, they're still massively far ahead in terms of gold. Nordavind, there were some rough points of this game. There were some concerning moments, but right now, Chrisberg is feeling unchallenged. The big factor was they were consistently looking for it. He's now got the Bloodthirster. He's got the Severum shield as well.
And 4 has a lot of damage in his kit, but he's not any resistances. He's got a cloth armor.
It's a Cho'Gath against Aphelios. It's free pickings, essentially. It's just something for Chrisberg to rack up the damage for. They are looking for him now. Hugo's coming out.
Yeah, Chrisberg. Actually, Advin's going to block that out. Throws out the silence here momentarily, but he is shut down. A feast will come out by 4. Remember, a lot of base health, but not a lot of damage. Sorry, not a lot of resistances. So he just needs to be careful. Weasel actually is going to take a lot of CC, a lot of poke here. Turret's going to get fired out by Chrisberg as they're actually zoning out here. Andreas gets himself a stun. Chrisberg's very, very low, but look at the healing he's got. He will go down. That's the shutdown, though. Looking for Aesthetic now, trying to put some distance out as he ward hops over. The Rupture will secure a double kill for the Cho'Gath. And now Niter, unable to defend as his mid lane will finally crumble here. They threw everything onto Chrisberg, and a movable... low mobility AD carry, not a movable. Low mobility AD carry.
Definitely movable.
Is
I think ultimately taking down Advien was a huge factor there. He had to sacrifice himself for Chrisberg, but that meant that they lost that threat from the rocket grab. And then Atlando could just move forward, wait for the right opportunity. Some flashes come in. They find the immobile AD carry that is Flash. And then once again, potentially looking for something here. I don't feel like there's a massive reason for Nordavind to come into their red side jungle. They are pinging it. They are aware this could be a possibility. I think they're probably just going to end up resetting here. Baron is up in 25, though, so if you're going to reset, you need to reset now. I think they want to pick to lead into Baron if someone face checks. And Niter has that spell shield from the Banshees, has the mobility, so potentially it's going to be him that does it. But I think at this point, when Atlando haven't shown up, when there's a control ward still in the Baron pit, you have to expect that they're going for something like this. There's no reason they wouldn't have shown for this much time. It just doesn't make sense. The blue chick comes out. Yeah.
The jig is up, boys. Run!
Advien not really in a position to make a grab, but the big thing they've sacrificed here is mid-priority. So now all the Nordavind can sort of push this up. They have to be a little bit concerned about flanks, especially Chrisberg.
Well, they do find a kick onto Andreas just to stop his recall. So Niter may get some free time here on this inhibitor. May be able to take it out before able to zone him away. Remember, 4 doesn't really have all that much magic resist as Niter.
He's just bulky. He now has a stone plate, so he is extremely bulky compared to where he was at those 2 item spikes. But ultimately, at this point, Chrisberg will still shred him. It's more about Thor finding Chrisberg, eating him, and then being done at that point. Right now, they are fishing around the jungle, so vision control is in favor of Nordavind. Just make things potentially a little bit difficult. Spell shield's down for both mid laners. Both teams fishing for that pick, that opportunity to take the fight. But for now, Nordavind once again head over to the Baron.
Yeah, well, they just sent Niter in mid lane to pull attention towards him while Baron's being started up. Niter has Flash and the ultimate, so he's able to make his way away. Blue ward is going to get used as the bubble does land on to 1. Jacob's going to do a fair amount of damage to Advien.
Thor's out of position.
And 4 is dead. In comes the railgun. Down goes the shutdown. Chrisberg's able to pick it up. Jobu has to use the chrono break as well to put some distance between him and Nordavind's members as Weisel. He's low, but he's able to get himself some distance away. Now Jobu's looking for Niter, but Niter gets the chains off. In comes the Moonlight Vigil, the Graviton for the slow and the kill. And that's going to be this grand starfall by Andreas. But Chrisberg, he's looking just to try and turn this one around. Fred will take him out, though. Andreas does use the stopwatch to stay alive, but the CC, the House of Bounce, will take him out, and Aesthetic will secure himself another kill. Only 1 member of Atlando will remain here, and it is Fred. He needs to be so careful. Nordavind just looking to push open this mid lane inhibitor.
He's got Flash, and critically, because they took down Chrisberg, a lot less damage to structures in this situation, so they won't be able to finish the game here. If they'd taken out Andreas and Chrisberg survived, that could have been game. But they will reset. They can't start the Baron again because their main DPS is down. So Atlando, it was a rough fight. Thor got caught out, and then they sort of went one at a time. But taking out Chrisberg was the critical factor that allowed them the success. But he now has a QSS available to him. His flash is up. It's going to be a lot harder to do that once more. And Atlando, it feels like if they don't instantly kill Chrisberg, he's just going to heal up. He's going to keep pumping out damage.
Well, you saw, even though they killed him, he did so much damage.
Yeah.
Like in his dying moments, that he was just able to really kind of turn a play in favor of himself. As Paul's going to start up the Ocean Drake here for Nordavind.
So again, this would be Soul for Atlando, and it would just be another stack for Nordavind. So definitely bigger stakes for Nordavind if they give this one up, but they are looking for it now.
But Advien's hook doesn't quite find himself a mark here, but Jolbu's over the wall on top of a pink ward. He's going to take some serious damage from Wazor. Chrisberg's in. It looks like for now they're looking to zone him out as Niter jumps over the wall. He's going to get silenced and slowed down, but able to ping back.
Advien's trying to look for the grab here. Ult still available for Jolbu, but if they layer the CC effectively enough, They won't be able to offer much in return. Andreas has to respond to the mid wave, but he does have TP.
Oh, not going to be able to steal that away. Nita's there to pick it up. They do look for aesthetic.
Relevant? He's gone. And Baron's still up and available. Advian being down is a massive factor. He is the one with the wards. He is the one who's able to walk forward and threaten with the rocket grab. This allows Atlando potentially an avenue where they can push in this Baron area, gain control, and look for those picks that they've been relying on for such a long time. Waves on Nita, both pretty squishy. You have to be a little bit careful. They're caught out in this situation.
Yeah, Hostpie gets used. Nita jumps away with the distortion, but not before taking a little bit of damage from that paddle star. 19 seconds till Advian's alive, so Atlando
not feeling
to try and get themselves some kind of control around this Baron pit. Get some control around this mid lane. That's the Moonlight Vigil. Chris Berg's going to get caught out. Look at the burst he's doing there. Aesthetic misses out on the Q, but they're trying to run through Chris Berg. The CC's big, but it's not big enough. Chris Berg is just liquefying health bars. Atlando on the back line, though, being dealt with by Nita. Nita jumps forward, gets himself the Ignite off, and an easy kill for himself. Root will come out here for a bit of a turnaround as now Nita looking for 4. Aesthetic finds himself the kill, gets himself the kick off, and a shutdown for Chris Berg. Everything was burnt to kill the AD carry, and he is walking into the base full health with a shield, ready to take the game.
The difference when Chris Berg has his flash, has that QSS, the pick fails, and this Aphelios is just way too strong. We said Nordavind maybe a little bit concerning in the later stages, but the Aphelios, he was their get out of jail free card, and he has done that for them.
Jacob looking just to try and pad his stats as this is it. Nita will fall down, but that's the end of the game. Nordavind take the win.
Good showing from Atlando, I've got to say. But now with that loss, they cannot make playoffs at all. There is no possibility for it, and it just rules them out. So a little bit unfortunate, but they've had some good performances. And I think that one was a strong contest. I like the draft, I like the ideas they had, I like the Cho'Gath with the center and how they looked to challenge Chris Berg. And although Nordavind did get caught out quite a few times and were definitely challenged in places, particularly Chris Berg back on the immobile AD carries, was a big factor. I feel like Chris Berg, when he found his footing, was formidable. Nitro and Aesthetic, despite the fact they're on champions, you expect to have huge priority in the early levels. They still were relevant later on. Just in that last fight, you saw Aesthetic cleaning up, landing that kick at the end on a Fred.
Yeah.
And I think this is the sort of composition that Nordavind were running with in the start of the split, and it failed them. But now they are an improved Nordavind. They've sort of worked out where they should be looking, how they should be playing. And although this was against one of the bottom end teams, and although it wasn't exactly a clean win, I think the fact that they're playing this composition and winning it all is still a sort of good factor, because this was a sort of Nordavind who were losing against everyone. They lost against Atlando in round 1.
Yeah.
So, again, not that greatest showing, but still a confident one.
I mean, commiserations to Atlando. Unfortunately, their run in the Nordic Championship as far as making it to playoff is done, but they still have 3 more games to go, so they still got a chance to play some upset, kind of show us what they're worth, really, because at the moment, they've really got nothing to lose. But unfortunately for them, that does mean they are out of any chances of making it to the playoffs, and Nordavind looking strong, continuing on their form, seeing if they can get as high as possible and potentially looking to try and make their way towards the finals. It's going to be a hard climb for them to do so, but they are looking a little bit on form. The few hiccups here and there in the early game, I think, are fair to say, but with that, Nordavind do get themselves that win, and we are going to cut to a quick break. We have our second game of the day. It's going to be Dusty taking on Bifrost, so don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a second.